tragedy hits home especially hard in the LGBTQ communities throughout our nation, taking many back to the heartbreak and even anger following the Pulse nightclub shooting in June of 2016. Joining me now to help us sort this out and put it into perspective, all of these feelings we have, is First City Pride Board Chairman Dusty Church. Dusty, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we're not seeing the amount of loss that we saw during the Pulse nightclub shooting, but this is still giving people that sense of here we go again. Talk about that.
Well, the purpose of these types of acts is to scare us, and whether it's one life lost or 49 lives lost, like Pulse, the impact is the same. That being who we are, being in public, being in space, and having daring to exist in this country is enough to make you a target of violence. And it is always terrifying. It is always painful for the community to go through that.
No matter how many lives are lost.
Of course, yeah.
So just before news time, NBC News published an article, and they said that in Colorado, particularly Colorado Springs, the anti-LGBTQ sentiment, rhetoric, there was an anticipation in the air that a tragedy like this could happen because of that. So talk about that, and you touched on it a little bit, but even here in our area, is there a feeling of that in the air?
I think that we've felt this nationally. You know, we've had over 300 anti-LGBT pieces of legislation brought forward in state houses across the country this year. We have experienced politicians calling us groomers and accusing us of being a threat to children in schools. This is a cultural problem, and we're facing an extraordinary period of moral panic where we've been made the targets by politicians who want to stir up those types of sense of angst and anger within members of their base. And so, you know, it's not surprising anytime it happens, and we certainly worry about it here. We know that it is possible absolutely anywhere. And where there are guns, this remains a threat that we have to face.
The last time we spoke, it was right before Pride. It was the day it was kicking off. We were talking about some protests that had happened at a pre-Pride event. And you and I were saying that we had experienced a period of time where that had sort of decreased. And now here we are again, it's back up on the rise. What is the conversation we should all be having surrounding what the rhetoric is right now and the anti-LGBTQ sentiment?
Well, I think people need to understand that there are motivations by those who want you to hate others. It's never true, it's never real. There's always been somebody that we must dislike or be afraid of, who's going to come and take what's yours or is going to harm your family, and you have to side with me. I'm the politician who's going to protect you. And there has to be a natural sense of unwillingness to accept those terms in politics. And until society says that's not an acceptable term, that we're not going to live in fear, that we're not going to live in a society where the only way I know who's on my side is by who defines who's against me.
Real quick, we have about 30 seconds left. You and I were young when Matthew Shepard was killed. What do you say, what's the conversation you have with young people coming to First Center Pride who are fearful after something like this?
You know, we were, when we were young, God, it hurts to say that, when we were young, you know, Harvey Milk, you know, it was a message of coming out was still very prominent within the community. The biggest thing that you can do, the biggest, strongest piece of activism that you can do is to live your life proudly and fully in public view and make sure that people see who you are and that you should be someone that the community can be proud of. And doing that, I think, is a revolutionary act, but it's also one that makes you feel really good and feel like you do deserve to be part of this country and you are equally American, and it's something that helps to build community. So that's always what I lean back to, that don't be afraid, be proud, be who you are, and there's a whole lot of us who will be there with open arms to hug you.
All right, Dusty Church, Board Chairman at the First City Pride, thank you so much for being here. You always have such an eloquent way of putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Edward.
it.
I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah.